Hi. I am so thankful for all the support y'all have given me. I can't believe I'm almost at 600 subscribers. Thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me. I just want to wish y'all a happy Black History Month. Enjoy this extra chunky leftist comp. Love you. Stay radical.
Black Queen Yuma here, and boy do we have some Black truth to uncover and expose. Stay tuned, let's go. Introducing J. Marion Sims, better known as the father of modern-day gynecology. During the 1800s, this man was performing medical experimental procedures on the genitalia of Black enslaved women without anesthesia. The New York Academy of Medicine even had a whole statue of this man praising him for his brilliant work in developing the cure for women's fistulas, which he developed on enslaved African women. He did this to many enslaved African women, but 3 that he writes about in his autobiography are Betsy, Lucy, and this is part 2. 3 of the enslaved African women that J. Marion Sims performed these experimental operations on were Betsy, Lucy, and Anarcha, and he details these accounts in his autobiography. He would perform over 30 operations per enslaved African, and this would continue on for years. In his autobiography, he explains what he did to these enslaved Africans, and I quote, "Lucy's agony was extreme. She was much prostrated, and I thought she was going to die after a stupid thing I tested." End quote. He continued until he developed a treatment. Sims perfected the treatment for fistulas on enslaved African women and sold it. This is part 3. After using and abusing the bodies of enslaved African women to develop the treatment for fistula, Sims opens the Women's Hospital of New York, and from 1855 to 1952 financially profited. In 1953, the Women's Hospital merged with St. Luke's Hospital and became the Women's Hospital Center Division of St. Luke's Hospital. Different name, same practice. In 1979, St. Luke's Hospital merges with Roosevelt Hospital, again acquiring the Women's Hospital through this merge and changing the name again to the St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center. And that St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center is known today as Mount Sinai Morningside. Still open, still in practice, still financially profiting from what this monster did to enslaved Africans.
White people.
There's dudes out here in this great land of ours who mock women for consuming beauty content, but then consume this like productivity porn where it's like, how do you wake up at 4 a.m. every morning like Jeff Bezos does? And look, here's what's happened, is that society told women that their primary value is being attractive, and society told you that your primary value is your economic output. And you are also doing the thing that they are doing. And what we all have to realize is that our primary value is that we're human beings. I'm so tired.
White people and entitlement, let's talk about it. Recently, I had a white family member come to me about my TikTok, saying my content could be beneficial, but the way I talk about white people makes them not want to listen to me. The fact that white people think that they are entitled to us making our messages more palatable for them is beyond me. I said, first of all, I have plenty of white followers and none of them get offended because they know the shoe doesn't fit. Second of all I do on here is tell the truth. It's not shade, it's just facts. Third, why are you throwing all the work on the victim? People were racist to me, so it's my job to explain how they were racist in a nice way. way, it doesn't make any sense. I said the fact that you feel entitled to a certain type of response from me is your white privilege showing. Perception of attack when I speak in the way that you don't want me to speak is white fragility. People are so infantilized and protected that most of the time they can't even see the way that they actually come off. Racist and extremely entitled. Black people do not owe you a manner of speech. Black people do not owe you anything. Check your white entitlement because your white privilege is showing.
Was to allow transgender athletes to participate in girls' sports.
No, but this is actually weird and disgusting. And the comments under this are even weirder and even more disgusting. Like, do y'all not know this is the same narrative that gets trans women, specifically black trans women, murdered and beaten and raped and everything of that nature? I don't know if you've ever had to face adversity because you're a cis white boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, but this is literally not cute at all and further pushes the narrative that trans women are just men in wigs. Like, stop talking about us though. You're obsessed. You're our biggest fan because this is hella weird and not one of us mentioned you.
Nah, dude, I piped that bitch like whipped cream, no cap. No capping, bro. She got a small ass cookie. She said that she loved my glizzy and it was mad big, for real, no cap. Serious, bro. No, she said I got a nice slimy ass pickle. I do, bro. Yo, I do. Fuck that bitch though, for real. She's a bitch. Nah, she smells just like my mom though. I told her right when I stuck my glizzy, I said, you smell like my mommy. And she said, and I said, fuck, bro.
In our last post, we had some comments that we needed to address. Africa is a continent. It's not a country. That means there are hundreds of nations within that continent that will eventually have conflict with each other. While no form of slavery is acceptable, the slavery that you saw in Central and West Africa is not like the chattel slavery we think about in the United States. The chattel slavery of the Western Hemisphere, initiated by the Portuguese and Spanish in the 15th century and continued by other European powers later on, was generational, meaning that once you were enslaved, your family was enslaved forever. European colonizers exploited pre-existing African trade systems because they had run out of labor, due to the fact that they had already exploited and murdered a significant number of the indigenous population in North, Central, and South America. When we use kidnap to describe the experiences of these enslaved people, we never mention the skin tone of the kidnappers. You did. Think about why. Think a little bit deeper about who would have been producing those goods. Think about who would have been working in the kitchen you're standing in right now.
Joel is talking about the labor and farming knowledge coming from enslaved people kidnapped from Africa. Even here in this tavern kitchen, an enslaved woman named Louisa was responsible for making all of the food for all of those travelers who were coming through here. I can think about her now, making cookies with sugar harvested by enslaved people in the Caribbean, from spices harvested by enslaved people in India and Africa, and serving tea that was traded on the backs of enslaved trade workers. Even wearing clothing that was made from cotton that was harvested by enslaved people. And here she was serving food to people who own other people.
Okay, here are the 6 different types of racists. Yes, I know there's more and I can make a part 2. For number 1, we have the progressive racists. This one is very left-leaning in their views, but someone will expose their racism quick, and I have 2 words: black conservative. For number 2, we have the I have a black friend racist. This is the one who outwardly says racist things, but then says they have a black friend and their black friend be the black conservative. So yeah. For number 3, we have the comedian racist. This is the one that makes racist jokes, except they don't even be funny. They just be racist. Like, it's not even like racist with a laugh. It's just racist. So yeah. Then for number 4, we have the microaggressive racist. This the one who be asking you weird questions like, is that your real hair? Oh my God, you're so articulate. Yeah. Then for number 5, we have the fetishizing racist. This the one who only dates black people because they have some sort of weird fetish, but they don't even talk about black issues, or they don't care about black issues, or they don't even think that there are black issues. And for number 6, we have the quiet racist. This the one who be having racist thoughts but don't say anything, so you probably won't know about them until they slip up eventually.
Okay, this question right here is kind of heavy for me. What's the most impactful thing that I encountered during my 21 years locked up? And here's my response. I got a friend, his name is Geronimo. He's from the west side of Chicago. He's doing a 95-year sentence. And me and him went to college together. We were very, very academically compatible. I mean, we would read stuff like about historical materialism and Marxism, stuff like that, and have these conversations. That was the start of our friendship. Geronimo got caught with a cell phone and went to solitary confinement for 6 months. Solitary confinement, that's 24 hours a day in your cell. And when he came back to general population, he lost his mind. That solitary confinement mentally broke him. And it's nothing worse than seeing a person that you care about, that you're seeing the shell, but you know that they're no longer mentally the same person. And it impacted me because it made me aware of how much you have to protect your sanity in the type of situation we was in, because you can lose it.
Tell me you're a hacker without telling me you're a hacker.
I want to read this New York Times article, but I don't want to pay for an account. So I go to the URL bar, add a period after .com, and I'm in.
Third day of Black History Month, let's break down the myth that house slaves had it better than field slaves. Now, field slaves were tasked with the hard, back-breaking work of tending to everything outside a master's house. As soon as you were deemed old enough to contribute, and that could be considered as young as 5 or 6, you were in the field 18 hours a day picking cotton. Now, on the flip side of that, house slaves worked inside the house, and while their trauma wasn't specifically tied to physical labor, the trauma that they endured was mostly mental and sexual abuse by massa. Rape was so rampant by white enslavers that a study in 2016 showed that 16% of African Americans could be traced back to Europe. One of the most famous stories of this is President Thomas Jefferson raping Sally Hemings for years and fathering 6 of her children. History tried to whitewash this into a love story, but that's what we're here for. Sally Hemings, serenade.
I absolutely cannot stand this pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality, and I've been meaning to make a video about this for a while. And the pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality is basically like, oh, black people aren't oppressed, they just need to work harder and all that type of stuff. So yeah. But the reason why I hate it is because people act like this country wants masses of black people like making it out of the hood and becoming successful and becoming like millionaires and billionaires. Don't get me wrong, you're gonna have your LeBrons, you're gonna have your Oprahs, but at the end of the day, capitalism needs a group of people that can be exploited. And that group of people is going to be black people and people of color. Like, we make up most of the working class. So if masses of black people, like hella black people, start to make it out of the hood and start to become millionaires and billionaires, capitalism is gonna crumble, and that can't happen. So I just don't like rock with the pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality for that reason. So yeah.
The 26 Women, Part 7. Karen Johnson. Trump pulled her behind a tapestry and kissed her, groped her, then touched her vagina without her consent during a New Year's Eve party in the early 2000s. She spoke about the incident saying, quote, "I'm a tall girl and I had 6-inch heels on, and I still remember looking up at him, and he's strong, and he just kissed me. I was so scared because of who he was. I don't even know where it came from. I didn't have a say in the matter. When he says that thing, grab them by the pussy, that hits me hard because when he grabbed me and pulled me into the tapestry, that's where he grabbed me." Trump called her repeatedly after the incident, offering to fly her to New York to visit him. She refused his advances and never saw him again. Next is Melinda McGalvery. Trump grabbed her butt while they were backstage during a Ray Charles concert in 2003. Ken Davidoff, a photographer at the concert, said that after it happened, she approached him and said, "Donald just grabbed my ass." She's fighting for justice to this day. Recently, she said, "He has to face the music. He can't get away with this. I just want justice."
What really grinds my gears, Part 7B. The mental health for black teenagers within the black community. Let me explain. I know y'all have these conversations with your parents. "Oh, why don't you talk to me, baby? You can come to me with anything." Black teenagers specifically do not come to, we don't come to our parents because they will use our, vulnerability against us. Simply us telling them about how our day went, what we did within the day, and what we did with our friends. As soon as the black parent will get mad at their child, they will be like, "Oh, so you want to do go do that with your friend. Get up out of my house." And that's the sad thing that some black teenagers have to go through, including me. We don't come to our parents about specific things because they would simply disregard our feelings and make it about them. Henceforth, the victim mentality that I was talking about within my last video. And don't even get me started when black teenagers try to sit up here and criticize our parents. As soon as we do so, we're disrespectful.
As a Canadian, I have rarely thought about my race or anything of cultural appropriation and that bullshit. But you Americans are on another level, dude. Everything is about race to you.
No. I was gonna let this one go and deal with him next month because it's Black History Month and it's important to uplift our fellow Black kings and queens. Then I thought to myself and I said, no. It's Black History Month and we were all taught the same whitewashed history. Just because you're Black and it's Black History Month, it does not mean that you don't still have to educate yourself. So to my fellow Canadian brethren and sisterin, racism is alive and well in Canada. Do not get it twisted. We are not any better than the Americans. So for my Canadians, you might not always notice racism in Canada because it presents itself oftentimes in its covert form. Microaggressions kind of lurks in the shadows. It's hard to pick up on, but pay attention because it is there. Canadians, we need to learn our own Black history. This is the time.
Hi guys, my name's Not Louie and welcome back to another episode of things that I consider ableist because they happen to be a minor inconvenience for me. Lighters are super fucking ableist, which is really unfortunate for me because it makes it hard to commit arson in this political climate. Getting dressed is pretty ableist. I always struggle to get my clothes on, and honestly at this point I think I'd be better off being a nudist because then I wouldn't have to get dressed and then I could show everyone my big, fat, disabled cock. Guitars are pretty fucking ableist. I'm an aspiring musician and I feel like my career would be way further than it is if I was able to play the guitar. But no, I can't, because my stupid fucking fingers can't get on the right fucking string!
Good God, I've been waiting for someone to talk about this. So back in around 2009 era, did you hear about these radio auditions about being on the Disney Channel? I had just got my driver's license and my little cousin was with me and heard the ad on the radio. My little cousin was begging me and she's like, please, can we go? They said we can be on the Disney Channel. I was like, sounds like a scam, but whatever, I'll drive us there. We get in there, there were hundreds of kids in there, all trying to apply for the Disney Channel. But they called it this thing called Tay. It was the word the with an accent mark over it. Yeah, I kid you not. We're gonna do this in a part story, but just look at this.
The Attorney General's office is warning parents tonight of what could be an audition scam. A company is advertising a...
I'll tell my story in part 2. Part 2 to the Disney auditions. I gotta relive this nightmare. So the ad says we had to go meet up at this convention center at a hotel in Dearborn, where I am surrounded by many children. Everyone wanted to be a Disney star. They made us sit down and watch the presentation of some video. Basically kids that were sitting there just like dancing and showing off different talents. They weren't even at Disney World. One of the rides of the presentation that they showed was like at Six Flags. They're showing all of these resorts and everything, which even Cedar Point showed up in it. Like they were showing the Millennium Force in one of the videos. And they're like, your child can be part of the Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel. So I'm like, those are two totally different companies. They finished the presentation. Then they're all like, okay, which one of you kids want to be on Nickelodeon or the Disney Channel? So with all the kids screaming me, they line us up and then they're just like, it's gonna probably take a while. So we ended up cutting in line because I said, screw all these people. Part 3 for the judges.
I just wanted to say that I still don't understand why, as Indigenous people, we're still facing all of these jokes and racism towards our culture. I'm tired of people mocking us for something that means so much to us and our people. We almost lost that part of our culture. For many years, they told us to stop throat singing, and we're finally trying to reclaim that. So for people to make fun of us makes it harder for us to speak up. That's why so many of our people are afraid to show parts of our culture because of the judgment, because of criticism, because of jokes like that. So please be careful with what you say and what you do on social media. I hope we can all change and support each other. Thank you.
I really wish I had confident POC and Black people TikTok when I was in the 6th grade and the 7th grade because I thought I was butt ugly. I really did. Whole time I had a fat small waist, pretty face, and a big bank. Motherfucker was hating. I thought I was garbage.
You know, before I moved to the United States, I had a whole perception of what African Americans were like. It was wrong. It was ignorant. what? Jesus. I will never lie to you. It was heavy on the ignorance. Then I came here and I said, Jesus! I see why you people are angry. Hey, I see why you are angry. You have every right to be angry because every day I learn a new thing about Black history and I'm just like, you people did this to human beings? Human beings that me and you God created. The same image. You people are going to hellfire. And when I say you people, you know who I'm talking about. White people. Wow. That's crazy.
Hi, my name is Garrett Pryor. For over 6 years of my life, I was sexually exploited into making over 1,000 pornographic images and videos for the nation's largest child sex trafficking ring. For over 6 years of my life, I stayed silent about the abuse that I was enduring, out of fear of repercussion, out of my own safety, and out of judgment by my peers and by society as a whole. I am no longer staying silent. What people need to understand is that Epstein was just the tip of the iceberg. If you don't believe me, Google the Boys Lover Association, a public organization working towards removing consent laws and child marriage laws. The other thing people need to understand is that the porn industry is a player in this game. There are children being exploited on Pornhub and other large porn distribution sites.
Let's address some things about this video because some of y'all have obviously lost y'all fucking mind. Now, there's some people in my comment sections that feel a little offended, like, oh, Black women don't contribute to this problem. Bitch, do you have eyes? For you to be able to utter those words as if there aren't Black LGBTQ plus community members that are walking around with all type of trauma on their shoulders because their mothers rejected them simply due to their sexuality, sweetheart, shut your fucking lip. And before y'all holler out internalized misogyny, sweetheart, Black women outrank Black men and have been for a while now. Why are y'all still following these ducks? It does not make sense for a Black woman of all people to be homophobic. It does not. We don't even hold the male privilege that straight Black men have. So for y'all to sit up here and to still try to project a superiority complex as if we don't get shitted on every day, now you want to wake up and shit on somebody else? Go to hell, sweetheart.
Eminem, who's a fucking rapper, said he would never sing in a fucking song as a physical. And he said, if you say a word, it means friend. And if I say a word, that same word, it means something different. Yes, that's not true. Just the fuck. It's not. It's not true. It's not. It's not if you want the world to move on. If you want this world to be the way it was 50 years ago, then you're true.
The world is moving on because white people aren't saying nigga. If a white man says nigga, it's just not moving on. You say nigga in slavery. Nigger, I'm a fucking nigger. I'm a fucking nigger. You put me in slavery. That makes no fucking sense.
Nobody uses that word.
Yes, they do.
Nobody says nigger.
You just fucking said it!
You acting like we're having a conversation and you can say the word, but I can't.
You can't say nigger or fucking nigger.
Calling somebody
the only reason I'm not your fucking race because you're my fucking teacher. Don't say that shit.
I'm not calling you anything.
I don't give a fuck.
No one's calling anyone everything.
You said it. You said it.
Dude, if we're in a class and I'm teaching you, hey, the word nigger is an old...
Black women are the most oppressed people in our country because they possess the two traits that white men have been oppressing since our country's inception, which is that they're Black and they're women. That's why you see white men get on this app and say, ooh, I love Black women, I love melanated women, and then they get hundreds and thousands of likes like it's this huge accomplishment for them. Because everybody knows, including them, that they're doing mental gymnastics like they're Olympic gold medal gymnasts or something. Stop treating, loving, and respecting Black women as some kind of accomplishment that you deserve an award for, and start treating it as the gift and the privilege that it is.
Care about myself because that's not how it is.
You've been going on for 25 minutes.
Okay, and there's a problem with that? Enough, nothing. I will voice my opinion as long as I need to. You can be mad as long as you want to be, Karen. You can know you're not mad, but you're a little feisty, sweetheart. And you might want to bring it down because you're not going to get disrespectful with me. I will stay in a child's place until you come and open your mouth, and that's when I'm not going to stay in my child's place. That's when I'm going to go adult to adult, woman to woman. And that's how it's going to be, and that's how it's going to go. If I need to sit here and talk about how racist this bus, inside of this bus has been, how bad I have felt inside of this bus, how many times I've gone home and felt bad about being fucking Puerto Rican just because of the fact that every day I come on this bus, I don't feel safe with the fact I'm being discriminated against. Maybe if you were...
Here's something that we need to have more nuanced conversations about. Hypersexualization. One thing I noticed about the way hypersexualization is talked about for young girls, it's always from a perspective of a white girl. And no, I'm not saying that white women can't go through horrific hypersexualization. I'm not discrediting your experiences. I'm just saying your whiteness affects your sexism. Your whiteness, and for my women of color, your adjacency to whiteness benefits you in the conversation of hypersexualization. I mean, when you see conversations like that on the internet, a lot of them are just like, oh, when I was 13, my teacher said I couldn't wear a tank top. And while yes, that's a big deal, I don't think a lot of white women are able to recognize the way hypersexualization extends beyond that and how early so many women of color are exposed to that experience. I mean, for black girls specifically, our body types are hypersexualized from such a young age. Our body types are associated with sexuality, no matter the age. Literally, I was 9 being told my body was an issue.
If you take care of a child in any way, please watch this video. Out of all my videos, please watch this one. You have to teach children the proper names for their private parts. It is a penis and it is a vagina. And the reason why I say this is because when they have to testify, if they have to testify in court, it'll be easier to prosecute that person that allegedly abused them. Now, let me tell you a story that was told to me over 10 years ago, and it really changed my view. A little boy walks into his house up to his mom and says, "Mom, there's this kid in the park and he wants some of my Twinkie." And the mom said, "I've always taught you to share. Go back out and play." Second day, the little boy comes back in and says, "Mom, he wants my Twinkie again." And the mom says, "Why are we having this discussion? I've always taught you to share." Third day, the kid comes back and says, "Mom." The mom just realized what was happening. And it was too late. Teach your children the proper names for their body parts.
There are some things that you should know before dating black men. For some reason, they're really sensitive when it comes to talking about black culture.
Not me.
Yes.
Okay.
They use the N-word and you just have to be okay with it.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta, but
you can't use it.
I don't. That's true.
You can never touch their hair. You don't have hair. Oh, and you should never say that to a black.
Yes, definitely don't say that.
What in the name of the sequel to Get Out did I just watch? I don't even know how to pronounce this. Something World. Is this you? Let's get it. And here's something you should know. This is Mildred and Richard Loving. And in the year I was born, 1967, they won a Supreme Court case that put an end to the multiple bans on interracial marriages across this country. And they did it without once trivializing their relationship.
I need you to follow me because I'm going to move pretty fast. I have 60 seconds. Let's start with the banking corporation. Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan and Chase, Brown Brothers Harriman, Fleet Boston Financial, even Wall Street. In the insurance industry, we have Aetna, AIG, and New York Life. In industries of higher learning, we have Yale, Brown University, Georgetown, Rutgers, Columbia, Harvard, Hamilton, Johns Hopkins, University of Pennsylvania, and Princeton. Let's move over to the railroad industry. We have Norfolk Southern, CSX, and Fleet Boston. Cotton industry. We have Brooks Brothers, Lehman Brothers. We even have Tiffany and Company, USA Today's financial company. Parent company. I haven't even touched on.
No, but seriously, this isn't just a preference thing. Scholars, historians, and even the NAACP are trying to get people to change the way they talk about slavery, because when you just use words like slave or slaveholder or slave master, you take away the accountability instead of inputting the verb that describes what actually happened. So instead of calling a person a slave, you would say that that person was enslaved, or call that person a captive or someone that was kidnapped. Instead of saying slave master or slave owner or slave holder, you would say people who held other people in slavery. It's a mouthful, but it also requires a conscious thought process for you to actually consider what one person did to another person. And instead of calling someone a slave mistress or a concubine, you would just say that they are raped, because even if an enslaved woman entered a romantic relationship or a willful sexual relationship with someone who considered them to be property, if they're property, they're not able to give consent over themselves. And lastly, you wouldn't call it slave breeding because slaves didn't willfully pop out 20 babies because they wanted to. It was forced.
Did that Black or POC creator really say something racist, or did they just say something that challenged your whiteness in a way that you're not used to? Let's differentiate.
Hide your white fragility, it's Black History Month, bitch! So in case you didn't notice, colonizers lie. So let's explore some white lies about Black history. Slavery was a long time ago. Most people alive today are only 3 to 4 generations away from slavery. Black people in America have been enslaved for longer than they've been free. Like, let that sink in. Slaves were too inferior to fight back. Listen, Black people fought back. There are a lot of big and small rebellions throughout slavery. Over 250 of them are very well documented. Most slaves were getting lynched because of sexual incidences involving white women. Miss Ida B. Wells actually revealed a much less sensational and far more ignored truth. Most lynchings actually occurred when Black people try to vote, own their own properties, their own businesses, or just fight for their rights. White people never paid reparations. Oh, they did, to themselves. Lincoln paid over $1 million to slave owners for loss of property.
Let's really talk about it, bro. But this time, let's talk about it from a hood perspective. Not no bougie, caked up perspective. It be the dirty male individuals. The skimp-beard individuals. The plaid boxer wearers who see gay men going about their business, enjoying their life, then proceed to say, yo, bro, I really don't have a problem with you, bro. But if you get, just keep that far away from me. Sir, you look like you stink. And it really fries me because a lot of men actually think that every gay man in their vicinity wants to rump them. You're in college asking grown women for hugs. You're down filthy, bro. You're down horrendous, bro.
You can always tell there's some oppressed ass white guy that will go through TikTok trying to find some Black person that believes in what they said, and this motherfucker went and found somebody. So let me help you out. Black entertainment television hasn't been owned by a Black person since Robert Johnson sold it to Viacom several fucking years ago. It's now currently ran by a white woman. There are historical Black colleges because historically Black educators were not allowed in white colleges like Yale and Harvard, so they created their own. They actually take white students. There's a video run around here where there's a white guy who's the head of a historical Black college marching team. Carter G. Woodson came up with Black History Week to celebrate the achievements of Black people. Gerald Ford was the one that actually created Black History Month. If you come from me, bring a fucking history book. Do not ever fucking stitch, duet, or call me the fuck out on some shit when I've actually had an education on this bullshit and you're just mad because, oh my God, I'm a white guy. Stop trying to find pick-me Negroes. Wrong place.
Fast food workers, what is something you do at your job that you know could get you in trouble, but you...
Okay, I used to work for Chick-fil-A, and they have this thing that's called the Chick for Chick. So if you're gay, they will literally spit in your food. I watched them drop fries on the floor and serve them to this gay couple.
So as of recent, there have been a lot of attacks on elderly Asians and just Asians in general within the Bay Area of Oakland, California. And I just wanted to come out and speak on this because this is absolutely not okay. All different types of people from different types of backgrounds have been attacking elderly Asians with the intent to kill, and it's just horrible. And with these racially motivated attacks have come racial hostility on both sides from a lot of different people. So, 1, if you see someone who looks like you doing something that is harmful to other races, 1, get on them and don't generalize them. Talk about that specific spotlight issue and get on that specific person. Don't be racist. You can't be racist and use your anger as an excuse no matter who you are. And 2, rather than being butthurt and be like, oh, we're not all like that, how about you advocate for the person who was hurt in the process of someone who looks like you doing something bad? And lastly, stop saying, oh, but BLM with your racist behind. Just because someone is Black does not mean they're an advocate for BLM. And just because someone did something wrong does not mean that Black lives do not matter and deserve to get shot down by the police.
Why do so many people grow up thinking cows are built just to make milk? Many people are adults before they realize cows don't magically produce milk. They only create it when they're pregnant or nursing, the same way humans and other mammals do. The life of the dairy industry depends on you seeing these individuals as production machines, whether they're on small or large farms. Dairies want us to think about a cow's milk as a liquid they make for humans instead of their own babies, and they don't want us to think about the discarded males who serve no purpose to the dairy industry and are sent to slaughter. No one here at Sanctuary is at risk of impregnation or slaughter, but every glass of milk is linked back to both of those things.
So, if you can't tell, I'm due any day now, and on my birth plan I put that I want a woman of color of not white descent in the room, whether it's a nurse, doctor, tech, whatever. And my OB was genuinely wanting to know why. And I said, well, I've had 3 babies now, and no one listens to me in the room other than the person of color. Every single time. If I am in pain, if I think I can keep going, if something feels off, my concerns are brushed off unless I voice it to the person of color. And she's like, well, that doesn't make sense. We give the same standard of care. They don't realize they're doing it. They're just like, oh, I think you're okay. This can't really be this isn't a big deal. Stuff like that. Anybody else?
Can I get a kiss? And can you make it last forever? I said I'm about to go to war, and I don't know if I'ma see you again.
Let's switch it up. I said, okay, my infatuation it translating to another form of what you call it. Oh yeah, I ain't met you, I've been looking, stopped the waiting for, I stopped the chasing like a alcohol.
Hey crypto, so we need to have a talk, okay? Just letting everybody know this is the real crypto, not the fake one. This is the real crypto. So crypto, I see that you're gonna ride for your niggas. I see that you have Morgan's back, okay? But crypto, nobody has your back, and I'm gonna tell you why.
I let them know that I didn't run away from my problem. Started drinking again, but that would be a lie. Maybe it's time to say goodbye. Pull out my 45, put that shit up to my mind like bye. Like fuck it, I hated myself. Fuck it, I needed some help. Fuck it, I did it all alone. I sit right here, deal with all this shit. When I slip my throat, when I put that gun in my mouth, pull the trigger, blow my brains all out. Feel like I'm falling down, feel like I'm giving up, feel like I'm dying right
now. Crumb Cake, if anybody had your back, if any of your niggas were riding for you, I'm sure they would tell you, do not post that cacophony that you call music. I'm sorry.
Just like I was a Loch feel like I was a...
This is not Africa. This is San Basilio, Palenque, Colombia. Palenque, Colombia was founded by Bencos Bioho, an African man who was sold as a slave in Colombia and freed himself by escaping with his wife, other 3 women and other 3 men, and they formed Palenque. Once they formed Palenque, Bencos Bioho formed an intelligence network and used the information to organize more escapes and guided the newly freed people into their liberated territory. Palenque is a place without police. What? Black people and no police? How many times we have heard that we were savages in Africa? Come on, man. Savages? Palenque, Colombia.
In this series, I'll be talking about all 26 women that have come forward to address Trump's assault. In chronological order, first we have Jessica Leeds. Trump reached his hand up her skirt and groped her while seated next to her on a flight in the 1970s. 3 years later, she ran into him and he recognized her and called her a cunt. He denied the allegations at a rally in 2016 and said that Leeds wasn't attractive enough for him to assault. Next, we have Ivana Trump. In a 1990 divorce deposition, Trump's first wife came forward about her then-husband raping her in a fit of rage in 1989. Journalist Harry Hurt got a copy of the deposition and said that the most upsetting quote was, quote, "Then he jams his penis inside her for the first time in more than 16 months. Ivana is terrified. It's a violent assault." Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, argued in 2015 that his client could not have raped Ivana because, quote, "You cannot rape your spouse." He took this statement back, admitting that it was inarticulate. So Trump's statements regarding these first 2 assaults are that he couldn't have assaulted them because one was not attractive enough and one was his wife.
I just asked
ask you a couple of questions. I want to make sure that I'm getting this right.
Yes, Henny, I'll answer whatever question you have.
Thank
for
you,
me.
thank you. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity.
Claims have been made that people in your community are actually racist. Is that something that you're familiar with?
Okay, so I've heard those claims. I just don't necessarily agree with that.
Interesting.
I think it's a matter of preference.
Along with racism, we have misogyny, misogynoir, fat phobia.
Yeah.
All of these sound familiar to you?
Okay, I just think the white gay community gets a lot of hate, Henny, because of all the preferences that we have. Like, it doesn't make... Yeah, like, a guy is not a criminal for not wanting any blacks.
Can I get that one more time?
Of course, yeah. A guy is not a criminal for not liking blacks.
Are you aware that these symptoms are adjacent to white supremacy?
Before the 1970s, your church did not care about abortion and in fact believed that life begins at birth. And while I do not think that a bunch of Jesus worshippers should have a fucking thing to say about healthcare when it's not their own bodies, at least that position was consistent with your scripture. But the minute y'all couldn't segregate a fucking school, you needed another issue to keep maintaining your political clout. You don't think that there are any babies dying in there. You're not stupid people, but you are deceptive and dishonest people. You are people who should be ashamed of yourselves because your lie affects these patients. You are terrorizing them. Why the fuck do you think we need to be out here in a city full of work that actually needs to be done? We're wasting our time defending people from you because y'all are menacing them.
I don't understand how people overcome poverty in America. I really don't. You know? I've been working since I was 16 years old. I helped pay my parents' mortgage when I was still in high school. I'm 32 years old now. I don't even have a mortgage. I don't have kids. I don't have anything to show for all this time that I've paid into the system. I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree. My parents never graduated college. My parents didn't even graduate high school. I'm working on my second bachelor's degree, hoping that this one sticks. You know, like, I was paying for nursing school, half loan, half out of pocket. And COVID hit. And now I'm looking at my last quarter of nursing school and I'm realizing I'm not going to be able to graduate. I'm literally out of money. And not because I failed classes or I did something wrong. I did everything right. It's just because I'm poor. I was born poor. I'm still poor. They want me to die poor. I don't know how you guys do it.
So in my video about black fathers, I said that President Obama often leaned to stereotypes about black dads during his presidency, and one response spurred me to make a video on this issue entirely. One of the many valid criticisms about Obama included his role in perpetuating negative assumptions specifically about lower income black communities. Quotes from a New York Times article entitled "Why Does Obama Scold Black Boys?" highlight this best. Like in 2008, Obama criticized black parents for not caring about the nutrition of the food they fed their kids, saying that they need to stop serving cold Popeyes for breakfast. Not only is this chicken eating stereotype rooted in the Jim Crow era, it completely ignores the fact that food deserts are extremely prevalent in black neighborhoods and consistent access to nutritious foods is near impossible in many places. In 2019, Obama went to a town hall and scolded young black boys for wearing 8-pound gold chains. After espousing those stereotypes about how the kids spent their money, he then commanded them to pull themselves out of the historical effects of racism. As the author of the New York Times article summarizes, rather than encouraging them to dismantle the systems that deepen wealth inequality, Obama and many other black elites declare that by avoiding certain behaviors that we might not even be doing, black individuals can overcome our economic and political oppression. Follow for part 2, there's a lot more. Yesterday I made a video about how Barack Obama promoted elitist stereotypes about black people, and a comment said other black celebrities do this too. I agree, and today I'll be highlighting Michelle Obama and the stereotypes she perpetuated. In her speech at HBCU graduation, Michelle Obama compared black heroes like MLK and Thurgood Marshall to black youth today, saying that when it comes to getting an education, too many of our young people just can't be bothered, and that instead of dreaming of being a teacher or a lawyer or a business leader, they're fantasizing about becoming a baller or a rapper. Now, I'm a senior at Yale and I have pieces published in the Washington Post. At the same time, I spent much of middle school and high school studying battle rap and wanting to become a rapper. It's from this hobby that I learned specific writing techniques in the first place. The problem isn't black kids embracing their culture and wanting to play basketball. The problem is people stereotyping them for it and ignoring why kids might feel limited to those interests in the first place. Instead of these remarks, Michelle Obama could have highlighted the ways that public school curriculums cater to white students and shout out organizations like Rhyme with Reason, which is an initiative created by a young black man to teach SAT vocabulary through famous rap lyrics. We need to make education more accessible to young black kids by incorporating their culture, not scolding them for it. Follow for part 3.
Aiming at one group of people, you just said get over it. Would you say that about the Holocaust?
Or women's rights?
It's not the same.
How's it different? The things women have been through in this country, in the military, on the force.
Are you supporting his side?
I'm supporting my side. I'm a cop, and I dare anyone in here question my loyalty to that. But I'm also a woman, a Latina woman at that, so I know how things in the past affect things happening now.
I can see that. You know, for women, and definitely for the Holocaust. For them?
Why is it so hard for you to empathize with black people?
Because you guys make it hard.
That's more of that racist shit right there.
No, that's the fucking problem.
The number of African people kidnapped during the transatlantic slave trade is estimated at approximately 12.8 million people. That's 88 people per day, every day, for 400 years. These people were transported in custom-built ships meant to maximize profit, so they were packed in as tightly as possible. And the 2-month journey started at a coastal fort like Ghana's Elmina Castle and ended somewhere in the Caribbean. This became known as the Middle Passage. Where enslaved people ended up was determined by the skill sets that they had. For example, people like the Wolof, Yoruba, and Mandinka were targeted for their rice growing skills, and they were brought to the Carolinas and to Georgia to grow Carolina gold rice. Other cultures like the Soninke from Senegal were targeted for their ability with dyes and brought to the colonies to work with indigo. Wherever trade products went, African people with the skill sets to utilize them were forced to follow.
You wanna take me home, put me in a bed and feel my body.
What is so funny about being gay? I see so many people making these videos, and then later on saying, no, I'm not sus, I'm not a fucking fruit. It's all jokes. Jokes? Firstly, by mocking feminine movements and then associating that with gayness, though everyone, even straight men, have both masculine and feminine qualities, and then associating gayness with a joke and a spectacle, you are mocking your own performed femininity and same-sex desire, assuring yourself and others that such an identity is deserving of derisive laughter. Secondly, gay people are not a spectacle. Not clowns nor comedians that serve the purpose of making you laugh. To discourage homosexuality is to promote homophobia disguised as jokes. You might not think it's offensive. So I again pose the question, what is so funny about being gay? What is so funny about love?
Ways to cause societal chaos. Just for fun. Go to your local supermarket and find an obviously heterosexual male. I'm talking toxic masculinity, loveless marriage, dead-end job vibes, okay? Pick up some fajita seasoning, look him dead in the eye and say, as a gay person, what do you think of this? He'll start to fluster. Number one, fajita seasoning has nothing to do with being gay, obviously. Number two, he'll say, I'm not gay. Where'd you get that from? Then point to another obviously heterosexual man and say, he told me. Then do laps of the supermarket and repeat. You will cause a homophobic frenzy with a bunch of heterosexual males fighting each other over being gay. Brilliant.
You, ma'am, do not know me. You do not have the privilege to say such grotesque things about me just because I'm fucking white.
In a second, pause the video and take a few seconds to guess what you think I said to her. One of the most grotesque things you can think of. So I actually didn't say anything to her. I just made a video explaining common phrases white people say about race when they have good intentions but are actually harmful forms of aversive or covert racism. And literally hundreds of thousands of white people reacted the same way because they feel as though the mere suggestion that they could have any part to play in this racist system is the most grotesque thing and the most racist thing they've ever heard. And that just comes from a lack of understanding of racism, period. So for all those people and all the people in my DMs asking genuine questions of how to be a better ally, I was asked by a high school to put together a video for their diversity day on racism, prejudice, implicit bias, etc. That video is completely interactive. Again, it's made for literal high school classes, so get out a pen and paper, all that stuff. For all the people in my DMs saying they have really racist parents or siblings and they need help or they just want to learn, this is the video for you.
I am at a loss for words. I just found out that the modern Republican Party was literally created to uphold racism. I'm not just talking about the Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, and the Lauren Boeberts. Let me explain. In my class about mass incarceration and justice, we're reading a book by Michelle Alexander, a civil rights litigator, called New Jim Crow. This book explains when, how, and why the two major political parties switched platforms. Hint, Republicans would say, we're the party of Lincoln and abolition. No, you're not. Before, through, and after the Civil War, the Democratic Party was the party of white Southerners who enslaved black people. The Republican Party was the party of the North and was generally ambivalent to black people. The party makeup started to shift during the Great Depression with Democrat FDR's New Deal. It helped impoverish Americans who, unsurprisingly, were disproportionately black people. Thus, the Democrat Party interestingly became the party of both the white South and urban communities of color. Now, this is where it gets seriously effed up. When the Civil Rights Movement began in the 1960s, it was met with thinly veiled racist law and order rhetoric. Sound familiar? Republican conservatives realized they could capitalize on this racism, and so the Southern Strategy and the New Majority was born. I'm out of time, I'll put up a part 2.
What is a trope in media that once you saw it, you could not unsee it?
You don't have to do that. I know. But I want to.
Just walk a tad bit faster and I'll just...
I'm trying.
Oh shit, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I take it off.
It's okay. It's okay.
As soon as I get back. And would you judge me if I didn't put it back on?
If this is the representation we get, we don't want it. Y'all can keep it.
Hey everyone, time for another episode of... Okay, let's get started. You're just as much filth as the next bitch to me. Offended? Triggered? Too sad. Go cry about it, snowflake. Don't even talk to me if you are such a pussy that you can't handle words. I'm too woke for you tramps anyway. You bitches think you got that premium showcase beep, but probably beep 3 different guys every week. You're nothing special. Give me a reason why you aren't just any other bitch, or buy yourself a fucking personality. Okay.
White people, why do y'all think that y'all people are from America? Like, y'all know that y'all are not from here, right? I just saw a video of this old white man yelling at these 3 black boys, calling them the N-word with the hard R, saying nobody wants to go back to Africa. Bro, you don't belong here. White people, why do y'all think that y'all people are from America? Like, y'all know.
I know the white tears and white fragility will be hard on this one again, but I'm still going to say it anyway. White people, my fellow snowflakes, I have some news for you guys. We are never indigenous anywhere in the world. We did not come from one particular country, and we are not native to one particular country, not anywhere in the world. And I know y'all be coming at me like, well, we are Europeans, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to say one single sentence. The deeper you dig, the blacker humanity gets globally. White people are a genetic mutation of the black woman. You can look that up. It is what it is. You're welcome.
I'm reading this book called Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson, and I just read a disturbing passage, so I figured, why not share it? Hitler had studied America from afar, both envying and admiring it, and attributed its achievements to its Aryan stock. He praised the country's near genocide of Native Americans and the exiling to reservations of those who had survived. The Nazis were impressed by the American custom of lynching its subordinate caste of African Americans, having become aware of the ritual torture and mutilations that typically accompanied them. So basically, Hitler and Nazi Germany saw the Americans' treatment of Native Americans and African Americans, the United States treatment of Native Americans and African Americans, and they figured, well, that's an idea. Hold my drink. And then 6 million Jews died.
I went to his bedroom to say goodnight, and he was crying because of the abuse that he was enduring in this school system.
Then why did you stay in Mexico?
You need to leave.
Here are some things you may not want to know, but definitely should. We have 60 years of farming left if soil degradation continues. This means we have 60 harvests. We use rebranded poisonous gas from World War I as pesticides that kill microbes critical to plant growth. We also till the ground, which destroys topsoil that takes around 1,000 years to regenerate.
Mexico City is sinking at a rate of 9 inches per year because they're draining their aquifers, or in other words, underground water reservoirs. Cape Town has had to shut off their water supply. It takes around 2,393 liters of water to produce one hamburger. So yeah, water is valuable. There's not an infinite supply. Just be conscious of your purchases. We have roughly 120 years worth of fossil fuels on Earth, and we can't even use all of those up because we'll die. More than 1 million species face extinction. 2/3 of extreme weather events in the last 20 years were caused by human activity. If you'd like to learn more about how you can mitigate these things, drop a follow.
So excited you're having a kid. Do you want a boy or a girl? You know I want a boy, and I want someone to play catch with. I mean, girls have hands too. Nah, I don't want a girl. What if she ends up doing porn? So your first thought with a boy was playing catch, and your first thought with a girl is porn. You don't think that's a little weird? Oh, here comes the white knight!
Why have I never realized the extent to how bad this problem is?
Now and then I think of all the times you screwed me over. But in me believing it was always something that I'd done. But I don't wanna live that way. Reading into every word you say. You said that you could let it go, and I wouldn't catch you hung up on somebody that you used to know. But you didn't have to cut me off, because I could never happen, we were never.
Food is controlled by a handful of companies making millions of dollars. In my opinion, this is part of the reason obesity is such a crisis in the US. And
I know a lot of my followers probably follow Eddie Liger, and that video is great, but I wanted to add on to it because there is a reason why obesity is such a prevalent issue in America, and it does tie back to capitalism. In 1955, President Dwight Eisenhower had a heart attack, and that prompted a conversation about the causes of heart disease and obesity. This scientist, John Yudkin, said it was sugar. Well, this scientist, Ansel Keys, said it was fat. Now, the first guy, John Yudkin, was right. We now know that sugar is the leading cause of obesity. But his research was eventually ridiculed because the sugar industry wanted to maintain their profits. In fact, the sugar industry began to lobby the government and fund scientists like Keys who said that obesity was caused by fat and not sugar. The culmination of this was in 1980 when the US dietary guidelines recommended a low-fat diet over a low-sugar diet. This led to abundance of low-fat foods, and that actually leads to more obesity because you have to put more sugar in low-fat foods to make them taste better.
Say his name, Xavier Hill. Xavier was my son. Say his name, Xavier Hill.
No matter how woke you think you are, you have some pretty opinions about disability. In fact, a lot of people in woke or leftist circles kind of suspend their belief system when it comes to disabled people. Free Britney is a great example of this phenomenon, right? There's a lot of people advocating for Britney Spears to not be treated by the courts like she has a disability, right? And a lot of their justification goes something like this. She's not disabled, so she shouldn't have to have a conservatorship or somebody controlling her finances. But nobody really asks themselves, why should disabled people in general be treated like this by the courts? It would appear to me as though people are perfectly fine with disabled people being treated like this, but if their favorite celebrity is determined as disabled by the courts, then all of a sudden, there's an issue. Reflect on.
No nuance, remember, I'm really late, so we have to go fast edition. Okay, gender is a social construct that only has meaning because we give it meaning, and that meaning adapts and changes over time. It's also extremely harmful to enforce strict gender rules on little kids. The working class doesn't support a livable minimum wage because they themselves hardly make above $50 an hour, but they personally relate to the elite class and they don't want to see themselves as equals to the lower class. Toxic masculinity and racism are the pillars that our country and our society are founded on, but you can't get rid of one without the other. However, that doesn't mean they're the same thing. Okay, abortion became illegal to replace the free labor that slavery provided by having a ton of kids. Veganism is classist, and with that classism, it is inherently racist, and female beauty standards are rooted in pedophilia. Please don't debate me in the comments, but if you have any questions, I will probably make more videos answering if you're curious. Okay, bye! Yes, absolutely I can. I could talk about how women are expected to be clean shaven on their legs, their armpits, and other places, even though body hair is a sign of physical maturity, and the only people that don't naturally have hair occurring there are children. I could talk about how women are expected to be thin and dainty and have high-pitched voices, again, traits that children have, to appeal to men. I could talk about how women are expected to be submissive and suppress their opinions, but what I really want to talk about is this study that we talked about in my stats class, where each of the dots is an age of a woman, or the average woman that men of the ages on the x-axis find most attractive. Now, notice how all of the dots are in their 20s, all the way up to the men being 50. Let me show you the women's real quick. Notice how they roughly correlate to the age? That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
It's about to get uncomfortable. Period shaming. Not talking to you about hygiene, but talking about you when you don't get it right. Buying you pads as big as mattresses to make sure that you can never be discreet. Talking to others about accidents that you have had as a way to embarrass you, and not explaining the process of transitioning into womanhood because now you are essentially her competition. These are things that men cannot relate to. So understand that when I say that this is a space for women, our experiences with our narcissistic mothers are very unique to us. So men that are here, you're welcome. Get what you need, right? But women that want to bring men into this space or are offended by the fact that I don't cater to them, understand that there are a vast amount of reasons why. And that's on period.
Native American facts you might not know. On December 26, 1862, 38 Dakota Sioux men were hung. Over 4,000 spectators overflowed the streets to witness it. They were all connected to one single rope. As the nooses were placed around each man's neck, they held hands and began singing in unison a traditional Dakota song. From a single blow of an axe, Captain William J. Dooley, who had lost many family members in the war, cut the rope and ended the lives of the Dakota 38. Abraham Lincoln approved these sentences. Bodies were left to hang for 30 minutes and buried in a shallow mass grave.
History of Asian American racism and discrimination, let's talk about Yuri Kochiyama. Kochiyama was a Japanese-American civil rights activist and was born in California. She described herself as a small-town gal and totally apolitical. This all changed when World War II broke out and her father was taken into custody and interrogated by the FBI, despite him being innocent and very ill. He was held for several weeks and died the day after he was released. Kochiyama and the rest of her family were put in the Japanese internment camps for 2 years. By the 1960s, she was an active part of political protests, fighting for black civil rights, anti-war, Puerto Rican independence, freeing U.S. political prisoners, reparations for Japanese American citizens, and much more. She was really good friends with Malcolm X and was right by his side when he was murdered. She was right there holding his head. Post 9/11, she called upon the Asian American community and made connections between the racial profiling of Muslims and Arabs to those of the Japanese Americans after Pearl Harbor. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005 and died in 2013 at the age of 93. Check back for more.
And here we have Her Majesty the King. What type of gay Yup, there was a queer Egyptian king. Sadly, she was murdered after her death. What? 3,000 years ago, Egyptian king Thutmose II died. His son was next to become the king, but he was a baby. So instead, Hatshepsut, who is Thutmose II's wife and mother of Thutmose III, took the throne. She didn't want the title of queen or regent. She chose to declare herself as king, then presented herself with a fake beard, male headdress, and changed her name to the male version of her name. But she still used she, her pronouns, referring to herself as Her Majesty the King. She was one of the best pharaohs to ever live. She grew the economy, was an iconic builder, and strengthened the military, all without bloodshed. The community loved her. Then she got murdered, kind of. Stay tuned for part 2.
Out of the 10 million Africans that made it to the Americas to be sold as slaves, 4 millions went to Brazil. And out of those 4 millions, 1.5 millions went to this place, Bahia, Brazil. Something that is very important to know about Bahia is that it was the center of the production of sugar cane in Brazil, which means Africans basically carried the whole economy for 350 years. Just exactly the same that happened in the United States, where Africans carried the economy through the production of cotton. We're celebrating Brazil and we're celebrating Bahia because Brazil is the capital of the black diaspora outside of Africa. And the epicenter in Brazil is Bahia, where more than 80% of their inhabitants identify themselves as black. That's Brazil.
No, but I'm not racist. Day 7 of Black History Month, and this is how it's going. I've literally received over 100 stitches on that video, and white people are raging, like, raging. Let's address some of the most common comments. This is the first one. You're racist for calling us racist. How is it that white people have successfully weaponized the word racist? They have literally convinced themselves that racism is a derogatory term, like it's now a slur against white people, apparently. The issue is there's way too many people who don't know the difference between racism and just getting your feelings hurt, or someone generalizing a group of people, or someone saying something mean against a group of people. Second most common comment. Do y'all want to know why I turned my comments off? In the comments, I was getting consistent threats of, typically don't get that type of threat, but I think it's because after that video, I had posted 3 videos about, and I shared my personal experience and story with. So I feel like a lot of white people just wanted it to sting harder. Are y'all really proud of the stuff that you're posting? It's only day 7.
So I'm a second-year medical student right now, and my roommates and I were talking about times where we've witnessed biases in medicine so far in our medical education. My roommate reminded me of a time when he was in a suture clinic practicing his suturing skills on a banana. He asked the question of, how do you know what needle size to use, and how do you know what thread size to use? And the physician said it correlates with the thickness of the skin. So for example, the skin in your eyelid is much thinner than the skin in your lower back. But then they said that needle size can also correlate with a person's ethnicity, implying that different skin colors have different thicknesses of skin, which isn't true. And for me, the craziest part is when my roommate came home to tell me this story, my first instinct was to Google it and make sure it wasn't true and that I wasn't missing anything. That's literally how racism is perpetuated in the field of medicine.
That one time 5,000 black kids went to jail in Birmingham.
5,000 black kids? Yeah, you ain't know? Hell no. All those pictures with the hoses? And the dogs? Yeah, those were all kids. I see what had happened was Dr. King had just gotten out after writing a letter from a Birmingham jail and found out that the state was making money off black people by putting them in prison and forcing them to pay bail to get out. So he figured black folks could flip the script and pack the prisons without paying bail and then force the state to have to pay money to house and feed them. Yes, but where did the kids come in? When he asked their mamas and daddies, they was on some, I work for a white man, gotta keep putting food on the table, sorry. I feel you, but I can't have the clan on my lawn scaring my babies. Then the children stood up and said, pick me. But because none of the adults were here for it, kids from elementary all the way to high school worked with local radio show hosts and local pastors to pull off this secret operation they call D-Day.
This is to my African American brothers and sisters right here. This is something we're gonna have to stop, bro. We gotta work on this, my brothers and sisters.
They say this investigation is a top priority. Are you scared, OG? The video posted on Twitter and Instagram shows a small crowd surrounding an older man who appears to have been collecting cans. The language is abusive and at times racist. I hate Asians. Bystanders chime in. It's not clear whether the man was hurt or anything was stolen. But what is clear is one man does take a swing. And as the victim bursts into tears, others mock him.
See, there was no need for you to attack that elderly man, and he's picking up cans, talking about you hate Asians. And if you, Neil Stunk, think I'm gonna vouch for that, you done lost your damn mind.
Field says police investigators have determined the incident happened on Osceola Lane in the Bayview. But it
Even bothering anybody, he's just minding his own business. How they are gonna look at it is he shouldn't have been around that area.
Protect that man rather than hurt him.